This is my 2000 Subaru Outback. I bought this back in January after my FRS because I needed a vehicle that would fulfill my adventure cravings a little bit more. I needed something fun, reliable, and that would fill all my cravings, all while being practical as well, which led me to this car. I bought it with the engine, ECU, ignition coils, clutch, and wiring already done to it, and I've done a few things to it since. I'll get onto that in a bit, but first though, I'll just let you look around the outside. I'll be admitting, it's rough around the edges. There's zip ties in some places, the typical Subaru rust, and the paint is okay. It's about as normal as you'd expect a 17-year-old car to look, really. I wasn't exactly looking for an aesthetically gorgeous car, though. I've already had one of those and go old very quickly. There's quarter panel damage in places, and I've resprayed the original plastic trim to black with bed liner spray, which makes maintenance and fixing any slight body damage or scuffs to the precious Sub almost hilariously easy. It's rather easy to maintain, and it's a good winter beater for sure. The wheels are off a GD Generation WRX. They're 16-inch, 16.5-pound alloy wheels, with winter tires with about 4.5 millimeters of tread left, about half of the life. It'll also include a pair of Nokian studded winters on matching rims in case you need a full-size spare or really want to get maximum traction. The suspension, the shocks are replaced by a previous owner with OEM KYB struts with about 140k on those, but the springs have been replaced with King Rally springs about 8,000 kilometers ago. They stiffen the ride up a nice amount, about 33% as quoted on their website, but not to unbearable levels. It still lets daily driving to be really normal while helping cornering and bumps come more manageable and composed. The brake pads are AC Delco ceramic pads, which help the stopping power definitely and were installed about 10,000 kilometers ago. Lastly, the exhaust is a MagnaFlow lightweight aluminum one, which gives it a nice rumble but isn't irritating. Now, when I say I needed a car for adventures, I wasn't kidding. Overall, I've spent easily over 45 nights sleeping in it for road trips, camping, festivals, and more. The 5% ultra dark tint installed makes privacy a non-issue because, well, no one can see in. I'm able to fit a whole twin-size memory foam mattress and sleep in it extremely comfortably, and I'm 6'2". In fact, it sleeps two people pretty well. The headliner was installed by yours truly to add a bit more color and character to the originally boring interior. There is also a rear-facing dash cam just in case someone decides to rear-end you, or in case of a collision you have all your sides covered. Now to move on to the interior. I said the engine is what makes it so unique, but the interior is what makes it so full of character. To start, the seats have been swapped from a V6 STi, the bolsters hold you in much better than the OEM ones, are much comfier and a little bit lighter even. Really didn't want to have black heated leather seats in the summer either. Steering wheel is a Momo Millennium Evo, which I got since it looks nicer and feels much better than the original one. The hand grips are a lot deeper and thus make handling a bit easier even. I'll leave the double-din head touchscreen Kenwood head unit in and wired since it'd be a bit of a pain for whoever buys this to have to rewire one. However, there will be no speakers included. The factory ones, in my opinion, are hot garbage, and I upgrade all 4 doors to a pretty boutique system. Needlessly expensive, so I remove them to reduce the cost of the car for the next buyer, but the door panels are stupidly easy to take off, so wiring in a new one will be a piece of cake. I've left the wiring for a full crossover network to be ran easily, or you can forego that if you don't want to. Wiring in a sub and amp of your choice will be really easy. The doors also feature, admittedly jank, sound deadening for an even better sound experience while reducing road noise a bit even. Lastly, there's also a front and rear dash cam installed for purposes of recording any collisions, fun events, or just keeping track of memories. It also has a shock sensor which will automatically record in case you're hitting a parking lot or what have you and you're, out getting groceries. That'll of course be included with the car as well as a micro SD card, so it'll be running right away. Now to get onto the fun stuff. Of course, the power plant of this car is what makes it so unique. It's fitted with an EJ20G from a JDM STi, which has forged internals. 20G is commonly known as one of the more reliable Subaru turbo motors they've ever made. From the factory, these motors were said to put out about 275 horsepower and 275 torque at their peak. It's safe to say that when you drive it, it certainly still feels that way too. The ignition coils were upgraded to ones from a 2004 STi and the boost control solenoid from an 03 STi. The ECU, which has been swapped, which carries some quirks too, is a 6K ECU which sets the turbo pressure to between 13 and 14 psi, a healthy number to sit at while retaining reliability. Fuel economy isn't great, but not terrible either. It's a Subaru. I average about 10 liters per 100 kilometers or 550 kilometers on a full tank. 94 octane fuel is required definitely, as well as a good oil. Frequent oil changes are just best to keep it running in tip-top shape. Last to note is the clutch and pressure plate are a nice Exedy Stage 1 which feels nice and responsive while not being annoying. The flywheel was machined and lightened as well. You might be thinking, how does it handle or steer without the power steering? And I guess I'll take you for a drive for it. Of course, while parking and going for small maneuvers, you have to use a lot more muscle, but when you're actually moving, it's not hard, and I'll show you how. It's pretty normal. Power comes on at about 4,500 RPM is when it really hits. Below that, it's rather daily drivable. Unfortunately, the fuel level sensor isn't currently working. It's mysteriously stopped working recently, and I haven't had much time to diagnose it and find the root. However, I do know it's not an issue with the fuel level sender/fuel pump, as taking a multimeter to it reveals the float is still functioning and sending a signal. It's definitely a disconnection in the wiring somewhere, where I'm gonna have to try and find out. Immediately when driving, you'll notice too that it's a very feedback-oriented car. The clutch sends you nice information from the transmission, connecting your leg nicely to the mechanicals behind it. The steering tells you a lot about the surface you're on, even the curvature or the camber of the surface. It reacts really well to input. The suspension really grounds it well and tells you very well your limits of grip, your body roll, etc. This car is definitely very much a driver's car and feedback-oriented. Power hits at around 4,500 RPM, which is when the turbo is finally fully spooled up. At that point, it continues strong all the way through the rev range. I know I'm the one that owns this car, but the sound of this turbo wastegate and engine note really make it really enjoyable. So much so actually that even with my crazy high-end sound system, I'd regularly opt to just turn it off entirely and listen to the car. Last thing I'll note is that the check engine light is on. However, that's been on since the original engine swapper did it. He could never find it out. It's only on when off the throttle, and it's such an extreme non-issue that it's just a nuisance really. It has no effect on the actual vehicle. Anyways, that sums up my strange STi Subaru Outback. If you're interested, please don't hesitate to contact me for a test drive, provided of course you have the funds and intention of actually buying it. Adios!